What's going on, servant leaders? Welcome back to episode 10 of the Services Power Podcast. I got to calm down. I got to get my bearings about me. There are so many things, servant leaders, that is going on here at Services Power. We've got some momentum. We're going, we're running, we're ripping. It's fantastic to be a part of this movement. First of all, we're a little bit older. We're 2-digit midgets. We're into the 10th episode, but we don't want to stay here at 2 digits. We want to reach the triple digits. We got at least 90 more episodes to bring you. We've got so many guests, so many people that we're interviewing, so many people that are tops when it comes to servant leadership and some of the thoughts that come around servant leadership. If you are a college student or you live life around a college student, get ready. We got some great stuff that is going to propel you, that is going to take care of you, that's going to teach you and train you to be the absolute best servant leader possible and allow people to know that the power over model just doesn't work in our world, in our society anymore when it comes to leadership. It's going to be about all of you. Get ready. We got so much going on. We got so many things that are ready for you, to include a brand new ebook. We're making space on servicespower.org so that we can get this ebook into your hands. It's called Full Service. And the fact is, we've got a lot of people doing a lot of great things for others in our world, but secretly inside of themselves, they hold a place where they're just not really thrilled, not really happy about what they're doing and who they are. And this new ebook that we're going to be dropping, it's all about giving us quick, practical steps to get back to the servant leaders that we need to be, being fulfilled within ourselves as we help other people feel fulfilled within their life. It's called Full Service: How to Remain Happy and Healthy While Giving Everything Away to Others. It's coming soon. Don't worry about a price. This is absolutely 100% free. Why? Because we want all servant leaders to be the best versions of themselves. And we're getting ready to put this thing on the website, online. You've got to be excited. Listen, hit us up at hello@servicespower.org if you need more information. It's coming down the pike. We've got so many guests that are coming onto the podcast. We've got them lined up. Ladies and gentlemen, servant leaders, it's so fantastic. So many people want to jump on board and help you, help us get this message of servant leadership out. And I'm told you guys, I got to calm down. I got to slow it down. I got to bring it down, especially since we've got a phenomenal guest on this particular episode. This is my mentor. This is the person that picked me up by my bootstraps when it came to servant leadership and taught me literally everything that I know. And if I can say this before I introduce Dr. Kumar, is that if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have someone in your life that is where you want to go, and they've already succeeded, they've already gone through some of the pitfalls and the mistakes, and they've already been through some of the trenches and some of the difficult situations that you're about to go through. If you don't have someone that's in your lane, that's leading you, my encouragement to you, servant leader, is to go find one. If you don't have one, hey, we will help you. We will help you find someone. That's also free of charge. Hey, hit us up, hello@servicespower.org. Email us, talk to us about who and what your endeavors are, and we will put you in touch with people that can help grip your life and change you and give you the direction that you need. Hey, we might be able to give you that same direction here at the Services Power Podcast. Hit us up, hello@servicespower.org. But we've got my mentor on the line on this thing and ready to go. His name is Dr.Madana Kumar. He's so fantastic. As a vice president and global head of learning and development at UST Global, a multinational digital services provider, Madana Kumar has transformed his department from a traditional training organization to an internal performance consultancy. He has shaped the company's attitude and approach to learning in a fundamental way, emphasizing that every single learning initiative should have a tangible business impact. Currently, he's leading the talent transformation required for his firm to become a digital company. That's just his corporate side. Ladies and gentlemen, he's also a professor. He also has a ministry arm that encapsulates so many things. He's around the world. He's worldwide. And today I get the honor and the opportunity to talk to Dr. Madana Kumar about global servant leadership. I hope you are ready. Let's go. Welcome back to the Services Power Podcast, and I'm so excited at this moment. I have to introduce you guys to this young man here that's sitting with me. He is my mentor in servant leadership. When I was trying to discover what this servant leadership thing was all about, this young man answered an email within 24 hours and just really started to validate what servant leadership is for me. I mean, he has helped me understand the concepts. He has helped me to walk through a lot of the practices of servant leadership. And it is an absolute joy for him to be in a room with me today. And of course, everything that he's going to have to say is going to be so beneficial for each and every one of you. Dr. Madana Kumar. Oh man, it is so good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, Lyle. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for making time for us. Just really quick, would you go over with our listeners what you do, how you do it, what you have going on in your life, everything from A to Z?
Sure. Yeah. So I call myself a servant leadership evangelist, and that's really what I do wherever I am. I play multiple roles. I have a role in corporate, where I lead the learning and development function of a digital services company, a global digital services company headquartered in California, about 20,000 odd employees, 20 different countries, and I lead their learning and development function for the whole global operations. So that's one of the roles that I have. I also, in addition to that, I teach leadership and lead a Center for Leadership for a premier postgraduate theological education institution in India called the South Asia Institute of Advanced Christian Studies. So I spend part of my time with UST Global, which is my corporate hat, and then part of my other time with the seminary teaching young students about leadership. So these are the two primary things that I do. Of course, in addition to that, I do manage a ministry called Menorah Leadership Ministries, which is aimed at helping Christian organizations with leadership materials and leadership consultancy and things like that. So those are some of the things that I do in my 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's.
I do have a family.
Yes, you have family as well.
I do have a family. Yes, I live in Banglore with my wife, Leslie, and we have a son who is 26 years old, and he is working in another corporate right now.
Fantastic. Now, you wrote your doctoral thesis on servant leadership in Indian NGOs or nonprofit organizations. Could you tell us what your passion behind doing your doctoral thesis on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Actually, I never took up the doctoral thesis to get a degree. Frankly, the circumstances in my life led to my faith. I discovered Jesus Christ during the course of my life. When I started, that is the time when I also switched into the learning and development field, from being an engineer and a project manager and a general manager in a corporate. So it happened at the same time, my coming to know Jesus Christ and getting into a learning and development field. And when I started teaching leadership, and parallelly when I started looking at the Bible, and I started finding that this is a concept that is already there in the Bible, and so I got so much attracted to this concept of servant leadership, and I my desire to study this became even stronger. And then I realized that that I'm getting busy with many other things in life, and I'm not able to really spend time on studying it. So I went ahead and decided that I'm going to create an external pressure on myself, right? And so I went and enrolled into a doctoral program. Actually, I did that just to create an external pressure on myself to study the topic, in depth. So that's really, I did and of course I ended up with a PhD on that, which is anyway good. So that's the circumstance by which I took the, doctoral studies.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you're talking about, because you're talking about life and business merging together to create lots of purpose. Now, for servant leaders out there, people who want to become servant leaders, can you talk a little bit more about how life and business can merge together to create more purpose for our lives?
Yeah. I always believe this, and in everything, whenever I teach servant leadership, the first thing that I always insist upon is that servant leadership has to be an everyday activity, right? It cannot be, you cannot have a divide between family life, personal life, and corporate life. It has to be practiced on an everyday life, starting with the house, starting with the home that we are in, the society that we live in, wherever we worship, and then of course the corporate that we work in and things like that. It cannot really be segregated. It has to be one integral theme that is running in everything that we do. So, and again, I also always insist that servant leadership has to be a choice. You cannot make someone do servant leadership. It has to be done by choice. So those are the two key aspects. So once you choose to be a servant leader, you will be a servant leader immaterial where you are.
We have an episode on the podcast, episode 3, talking about developing the want to be a servant leader. And there are people out there that have heard about being a servant leader and what is it all about. And really what it is you have to discover it. And when you discover it, it has to become really part of your life. This is not just something you just go out there and pick up and do, like really a big part of your life. Now, your life is in India for the most part. And I find that so fascinating. As a matter of fact, when I tell people that my mentor is from India, they're like, really? How did you like go out there? Like, no, he's really cool like that. And so, could you talk about global servant leadership and what servant leadership looks like in India and the Eastern Hemisphere and how it's catching on, how it's having impact?
Yeah, there are two facets to it, and one is a good one and the other one is a not so good one. The good part is that if you really look at the ancient literature in India, it does talk about the kings being servants to the people and sort of sharing the power with them and things like that. Actually, there is a writing by Chanakya, who was one of the sometime in the BCs, very ancient writer and well-known person in the Indian history. So he specifically says that the king is a paid servant of the people, and the king enjoys the benefits, the power along with the people. So the concept itself is not completely new. So that is the good part of it. Now, the problem also is that in India and in Eastern countries, the word servant is not a good word, right? No one wakes up in the morning saying that, okay, I want to be a servant today, because the word servant has got a negative connotation to it. And so, when we speak about servant leadership, people generally get bogged down at that point where, hey, how can you be a servant and still be a leader? Because the servant is supposed to be more or less like a slave, right? Just obey what others tell you and do things for others, and that's what it is. How can you combine these two concepts together, right? How can you combine the servanthood and the leadership part of it together? So that is the biggest challenge that one faces there.
Do you think that concept or the connotation of servant is a global issue? And if you do think so, which I think you do, how do we overcome that connotation?
Yeah, it is a global phenomena. I do agree in places like India where servants are common, right? Probably it is more, but it is a global phenomena. Now, obviously there is no easy way of breaking that. I think it is, we have to continue. Whenever we talk about servant leadership, we also need to talk about the myths that are around servant leadership. to highlight, as Ken Blanchard would put it, the two aspects of servant leadership. One is the serving part and the leadership part, which is being the, setting the vision and direction and setting the goal, providing big dreams for the organization and leading the people to the bigger dreams and stuff like that. And then the serving part where, we as leaders become resources for the people who are implementing our vision and direction and things like that. So I think we got to be able to break some of the myths that surround this whole concept of servant leadership. I mean, all said and done, servant leadership itself is an oxymoron, right? It is a contradiction in itself, and that is so everywhere. But we have to continue to, highlight the serving part and the leadership part and bring them together and thereby break the myths which are around servant leadership.
I want to zero in on your expertise in your work as a professor, as a teacher, because we do have college students listening to the podcast, and just kind of try to also break some of the myths and help with seeing the power of servant leadership in action. And so as you've gone around and as you've trained and also as you've taught, what are some stories or some examples that you've seen of servant leadership in action working and breaking the myth?
Yeah. So the good thing is, after Greenleaf's, sort of discovery of this servant leadership, Robert Greenleaf's discovery, there's been a significant number of studies done, right? So, I think recently Ken Blanchard has brought out this book called Servant Leadership in Action, which has got significant number of writers and stories of real applications of, Don Frick has brought in some books about servant leadership implementations and things like that. So fortunately for us today, there are significant number of, successful stories available. If you look at the Fortune 100 list of companies, the best companies to work for, you would find that almost 30% of them publicly claim that they follow servant leadership principles. It might not necessarily be purely in the way that Robert Greenleaf put it, saying that you got to be a servant first, and then the desire to serve will lead you to a leadership position. That might not be the actual situation, but still they publicly claim that they practice servant leadership. You take Southwest Airlines, you take Chick-fil-A, you take Marriott, you take Starbucks, you take Whole Foods. There are multiple cases like that which come in where there are these successful stories that are available. What I also found is that in my doctoral study, I studied the impact of servant leadership behaviors to how employees perform, and it was amazing to find that there is an empirical correlation, very strong positive correlation between servant leadership behavior that is exhibited by leaders on the job performance of employees. There's a direct correlation by almost about 18%. But what is also fascinating is that there's almost a 70% correlation between the servant leadership behaviors and the organizational commitment of the employees. And then, of course, the organizational commitment in turn again impacts the on-the-job performance of the employees. So there is a very empirically proven relationship between the servant leadership attributes and the on-the-job performance of the employees. It is very clear that when leaders exhibit servant leadership behavior, the employees' performance goes up. What was also, revealed during my doctoral study, is that the fact that when leaders exhibit servant leadership behavior, it also improves the community citizenship behavior of the employees. So they not only, they become a lot more committed to the organization and they perform a lot better in the job. But not just that, they will also be better community citizens outside the organization. They will do better for the society outside the organization. So, it's really a sort of a complete win-win package in my view. And so, I think those type of statistics and the success stories that we have should hopefully convince the cynics or the fence-sitters who want to really know whether it will work. See, The fact, Lyle, is that most people agree that it is a good concept. Most people will say that, hey, it's a noble concept. It is good. It's a great concept and things like that. But when it comes to the question, hey, will it work in real world? Will it work for business which ultimately needs to produce profit for the stakeholders, for the shareholders? That is where the crux comes. And so I think as servant leadership evangelists, our role is to continue to unearth stories that will convince people that it is not just a utopian, idealistic, great concept, theoretical. It is a concept that will work in businesses today, and we can use it to create profit for the shareholders. I mean, take Chick-fil-A, for example. The studies very clearly reveal that the per capita productivity of a Chick-fil-A employee is 400% of that of a KFC employee, right? 4 times higher. And what is the difference? The difference is the leadership style that they have, which is serve, S-E-R-V-E. That is what Chick-fil-A goes by. So I think we need to really spend our time digging out similar stories for that type of impact that we can create on our listeners.
Speaking of our listeners, we have one more question, and then we're going to go ahead and close out the podcast. Our listeners are college students. Why should a young person, a young professional, a student coming out of college, why should they really be looking at the principles of servant leadership and deciding to incorporate them?
Wow. To me, it is very, very, very simple and very clear. The world has had our fair share of self-serving leaders, and we have seen its impact. The world has suffered enough, whether it is religion, whether it is politics, whether it is military, whether it is business. You take any walk of life, we have had our fair share of self-serving leaders. And it is time that especially youngsters look for a different world, for a better world. And the only way we can do that is to move away from being a self-serving leader and be a serving leader. You know this, that there can only be 2 types of leaders. You're either a self-serving leader or you're a serving leader, right? It is really black and white. So I think there is a strong need for us to create that type of a world for ourselves, for the legacy that we want to leave, and for the future generations that are coming after us. So it's our responsibility. Put an end to the self-serving leadership era and begin a serving leadership era right now.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your experience. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us. How can we connect with you? How can those who are listening to the podcast today, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with what you're doing and follow along with the things that you're saying and you're doing?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Dr.Madana Kumar. I'm in Twitter, KumarMadana. You could follow me in any of those social media sites. I have my own website called themenorahleadership.com. You could always get my contact details from there.
Fantastic. And so we'll link all those things in the show notes. What a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much again for your time with us. Servant leaders, I hope you guys have listened and heard all of the great things that have been said on the podcast today. I'm so glad that you're here with us, and we're going to continue to serve together.
Thank you.
There you go, servant leaders. Dr. Madana Kumar knocking it down from way downtown. I don't want you to miss what he said about the fact that servant leadership works. It just works. It works so many different places. It works in so many different ways. There's so much research and there's so much proof that when we stop trying to get power over people and we just allow the people that we're around, the people that we serve, to be the best versions of themselves in leadership, in companies, in our schools, and in our world, we will find success. And it's going to work out in our pockets as well as in our hearts and in our minds and lives. We're so glad that you're going down the train tracks with us. We hope you continue to keep rolling as we speed along to 100 episodes. We're almost there. We got 90 left. thanks for jumping on with us, and we hope to see you in the next episode. We're honored to serve.